Hardly any manufacturer stands for Supermoto fun quite like KTM. This is the legend, the 690 SMC-R. But for 2025, KTM has added a little sister, the 390 SMC-R. So that makes me ask the question, how much Supermoto do you actually need for real fun? Is the small 390 enough, or do you have to go for the 690? And with that, a very warm welcome to 1000 PS Television and a warm welcome from the 1000 PS Race Lab. As you may have already seen, we tried something new. We had a KTM meets 1000 PS Supermoto training event. We brought people in from KTM, we had the 1000 PS crew there, and we also had viewers with us, all to enjoy a day on Supermotos. There will of course be a separate video about that, but for the first time we also had the 390 SMC-R and the 690 SMC-R together, both of them the new models. And of course we asked ourselves the same question, does it really have to be the biggest one? Do you really need full power, or maybe the smaller one is enough? Of course, I know the comparison is difficult. We are talking about two different price categories and two different engine capacity classes. So you really have to see this comparison with a bit of a wink and treat it more like a philosophical question. Does it absolutely have to be the big one? And above all, Supermoto is a really cool topic right now, and maybe you just want a Supermoto as something to ride from time to time as a second bike. And then it is also a perfectly fair question to ask. Does it really have to be the big one? Let us start with the first impression, because as soon as you sit on them, you immediately notice that KTM has created two very different worlds here. The 390 is compact, playful, almost like a small annoying dog that just wants to pull ahead on its own and get going. It is light, agile, and at the same time it really gives you confidence. You ride it and it basically tells you, come on, just try it. Not much can really go wrong. Try the drift. The 690, on the other hand, already feels like a completely different league at first impression. You can feel the pressure as soon as you start it up. The powerful single cylinder, the legendary LC4, it vibrates, it feels alive, and with every movement of the throttle, it signals to you, this is not a toy, this is serious business now. And that takes me straight to the engine. The 390 comes with 45 horsepower. That sounds like very little, but in practice it is perfectly controllable. It revs up eagerly. It needs a bit of engine speed, but it pulls through cleanly and gives you the feeling that you can really use it properly, whether on the road or on the Supermoto track. There is no excess of power, no stress, just pure riding fun. You can open the throttle and you can actually make mistakes because it is not that bad. It forgives you, and that is exactly what makes it so charming. The 690 is pretty much the opposite. 79 horsepower and 73 Newton meters from a single cylinder. That is honestly pure madness in its rawest form. And this engine just punches the torque into your lower back like a fist. It is rough, raw, direct, uncompromising, exactly the way you know the 690 and the way you expect it to be. And that is precisely where its fascination lies. It is the beast among supermotos, the queen of single cylinders at KTM. And every single time you ride it, you can just tell that KTM really knows what they are doing. They have really understood this topic and have simply perfected Supermoto. Let us move on to suspension, handling, and everyday usability. Both bikes come with a steel trellis frame, WP suspension, and top-level ergonomics. Although the ergonomics do differ quite noticeably. The 690 follows the classic Supermoto approach, a straight flat seat, and you can move very close to the handlebars. The 390, on the other hand, is more, well, I do not like to say it, but unfortunately it is true, a naked bike in Supermoto clothing. You can clearly feel that the 390 Duke is underneath. That is also why we have the tall tank design, and you simply cannot get quite as close to the handlebars. Apart from that, the 390 with its 154 kilograms is actually fairly close to the big 690. So in terms of weight, there is not that much between them. But that is also due to the A2 license regulation. That is why the 390 ends up weighing a bit more. Otherwise, on the 390, the suspension is soft enough for the road, so you get plenty of comfort, but at the same time, it is still sporty enough to enjoy a Supermoto day and look good doing it. And above all, even on the small one, the suspension can be adjusted. On the 690, everything is once again a bit more substantial. WP forks with 48mm stanchions, a linkage at the rear, more suspension travel, and of course the Brembo braking system, which really stops you very quickly when needed. In terms of handling on the Supermoto track, we noticed that this is where the decisive difference lies. The small 390 can be steered in an absolutely accessible way. You think about the corner and it is already in. When our participants got on the bike, especially those with a bit less experience with Supermoto, after riding the 390, they all said the same thing. It is so easy with this one, it practically does everything by itself. The big one, the 690, demands a lot more from you. More body input is required, you have to ride it more actively, you need more pressure on the handlebars, you also have to apply the throttle more carefully, of course, because the power just comes in much faster and there is simply a lot more of it. But it is exactly this extra work that rewards you with even more adrenaline and enjoyment. But that is just my opinion. Martin, the topic of Supermoto really excites a lot of people. And especially now, there are more compact models available. Are these real alternatives for you? Can they do everything that the big ones can?
These days, they can already do quite a lot. But of course, everything only to a limited extent. If you look at performance, first of all, it is clearly obvious that these small engine capacities cannot keep up with the big ones. But when it comes to riding possibilities, they are definitely interesting because of their low weight. You do, of course, have a bit less power, but you often benefit from the agility, from this compactness, and from the lightweight, because they are built much lighter than the big single-cylinder bikes. That already gives you many advantages on the other side as well. And I think that makes them a very interesting alternative, especially for beginners or for inexperienced motorcyclists. There are now also quite affordable, reasonably priced motorcycles on the market in this category. And taken as a whole, they definitely have their justification for existing and are interesting options on the market. So you do not necessarily have to go for such large engine capacities. These small ones can be fun as well, especially in the entry-level segment, or if I am not yet such a skilled rider, it is definitely great fun.
Do you think that in the long run, a bike like the 390 SMC-R will keep giving me fun? Or will I reach a point at some stage where I say, now I need the bigger one?
Yes, from my own experience, I would almost say yes. So of course it is like this, that the 390 can be fun and is fun, especially at the beginning when you are not yet used to these kinds of accelerations. Because you have to consider one thing, motorcycles like this, even if they are weaker motorcycles compared to others, are still very strong in terms of acceleration compared to other vehicles that you know from everyday road traffic. That means starting out with such bikes is absolutely fine, and it even allows an easier way to get used to the whole subject. I would even say it has advantages compared to more powerful, heavier, bigger bikes. But once you get used to it over time and you become more experienced, you then automatically start looking for a bit more. And especially in the single-cylinder segment with such small engine capacity, you are of course simply limited in terms of peak power. And then it does make sense that at some point over time you move on to something bigger. But that still does not mean that you cannot have fun with such small capacities as well.
Another very important point in this comparison, and I already mentioned it at the beginning of the video, is the price. Because it is actually difficult to compare the motorcycles purely by price. The 390 costs 6,999 euros in Austria, and the big one, the 690, costs 13,599 euros. So it is basically almost twice as expensive. You could almost buy two small ones for the price of one big one. But in return, with the 690, you also get roughly twice the power, better components, and a motorcycle that has been proven and popular in this class for years. Still, we are happy that KTM has brought the 390 because it has its own appeal. It is ideal for young riders, for supermoto beginners, or simply for anyone who wants to feel more grins than respect on tight country roads, because you can work your way to the limits of this motorcycle much faster. But even here, I do not want to leave it at just my own opinion, because at our training event at the end of the day, I asked all participants the same question. Without any explanation, if it were your own money today, which bike would you choose?
No explanation, if it were your money, which one would you take? 390 or 690?
690.
Which one would you take? 390 or 690?
Whoa, good question. But probably the 690.
Alright,
after all.
690, 390 or 690?
690.
390 or 690?
If you want one bike in your life that can do everything, then definitely the 690. It does it all. And the 390, that is more of a riding bike for go-kart tracks, race tracks, and everyday use as well. Actually, huge fun too.
390 or 690?
690.
Without any explanation, if it were your money, which one would you take? The 690 or the 390?
690.
Gregor, if it were your money, which one would you take? 390 or 690?
690. It is just simply...
No explanation.
Oh, I cannot decide. I think if I work at 1000 PS, I would take the 390. If I work somewhere else and earn more, then I would get the 690.
Martin, without any explanation, if it were your money, which one would you take?
690.
Philip, if it were your money, which one would you take?
Probably the 690.
In the end though, it is up to each individual which Supermoto they choose from KTM. The small 390 SMC-R, compact and suitable for the A2 license, or the beast, the big one, the 690 SMC-R. If you have already made this decision, or if you are just about to, then write it down in the comments below. I would be really interested in your line of thinking. And with that, thank you very much for watching. We will see each other in the next video. See you soon. Bye.